I never expected Sophia Sterling to walk into my office and offer me a relationship with rules. Not a business partnership, not an investment, a fake relationship. At the time, my small company was barely surviving. I had spent years building it from nothing, but one failed project had drained almost everything I had. My office was tiny, my bank account was worse, and my biggest investor had just called to say he was pulling out. I was staring at my laptop when my assistant knocked. "Someone is here to see you." "Who?" She says her name is Sophia Sterling. I almost laughed. "The Sophia Sterling?" My assistant nodded. "The billionaire heiress?" "Yes." I quickly stood. "Send her in." A few seconds later, the door opened. Sophia walked inside. She was dressed in a simple but expensive black suit. Her long hair fell neatly over her shoulders, and her expression was calm. Too calm. She looked around my tiny office. "This is where you run your company?" I nodded. "For now." She looked at me. "I've heard you're good at what you do." "I try to be." She sat across from me. Then she placed a folder on my desk. "I have a proposal." I opened it. My eyebrows rose. "This is a relationship agreement." "Yes." I looked at her. "A relationship agreement? A fake relationship." I stared at her. She didn't laugh. "You're serious?" "Very." I leaned back. "Why me?" "Because you're trustworthy. You barely know me." "I know enough." She folded her hands. "My father is pressuring me to marry Alexander Kane." I knew the name. Everyone did. Alexander was the son of another billionaire family. Sophia continued. "I don't want to marry him. So pretend you're dating me?" "Exactly." I looked at the agreement again. "And what do I get?" "Enough money to save your company." That got my attention. I hated admitting it, but my company needed money. "A lot of it." "How much?" She gave me a number. I stared at her. "That would solve every problem I have." "I know." "Why would you give me that much?" "Because I need this arrangement to look convincing." I closed the folder. "What are the rules?" Sophia immediately became serious. "First, don't ask about my past." "Fine." "Second, don't expect me to love you." I almost smiled. Wasn't planning on it. "Third," she paused. "Whatever happens, don't fall in love with me." I laughed. She frowned. "What's funny?" "You're saying it like falling in love with you is some kind of unavoidable disaster." "It could be." I looked at her carefully. For the first time, I noticed something unusual. She didn't sound arrogant. She sounded afraid. I pointed toward the contract. "Anything else?" "No public arguments." "Fine." "We have to attend family events together." "Okay." "You'll have to meet my father." "That sounds dangerous." She almost smiled. "It is." "And Alexander? You'll probably meet him too." "Even better." She ignored my sarcasm. "We'll have to appear affectionate in public." "How affectionate?" She hesitated. "Hand-holding. Occasional hugs. Maybe kissing if necessary." I stared at her. She quickly added, "Only for appearances." "Of course." She looked relieved. I picked up the pen. "This is insane." "I know." "You understand that?" "Yes." "And you're still asking me?" "Yes." I looked at the contract one last time. My company was days away from collapse. This money could save everything I had spent years building. I signed. Sophia watched me carefully. "You're sure?" "No." She blinked. I smiled. "But I'm doing it anyway." She signed her side. Then she extended her hand. I shook it. "Deal." Her fingers were warm. For some reason, she didn't immediately let go. Our eyes met. Something changed in her expression. It lasted only a second. Then she pulled her hand away. I noticed, but I didn't ask. That evening, I told Daniel everything. He stared at me. "You agreed?" "Yes." "To fake date Sophia Sterling?" "Yes." He rubbed his forehead. "You've lost your mind." "I need the money." "That isn't the point." "What is the point?" "Fake relationships don't stay simple." I laughed. "Relax. It's a contract." Daniel pointed at me. "That's exactly what people say before everything goes wrong." I shook my head. "Nothing is going to happen." "You're sure?" "Absolutely." He smiled. "You're going to fall for her." "No chance." You said that very confidently. Because it's true. Meanwhile, across the city, Sophia stood alone in her bedroom, looking at the agreement we had signed. Her assistant asked, "Are you sure about this?" Sophia didn't answer. She looked down at the photograph beside her bed. It was an old picture of me. She had kept it hidden for years. Finally, she whispered, "I have to be." The assistant frowned. "Why?" Sophia touched the photograph gently. "Because if he discovers the truth now, everything will change." Back in my apartment, I looked at the contract sitting on my table. I thought about the money, my company, my future. I had no idea that I had just signed the most important agreement of my life. I believed I was entering a business arrangement. Sophia believed she was protecting herself from Alexander. Neither of us understood what was really happening, because when we shook hands that evening, I thought I was agreeing to pretend to love her. But the truth was much more dangerous. Sophia was already afraid that pretending might become real, and I had no idea that she was the one person in the world I was about to lose my heart to. For the first few days, pretending to be Sophia Sterling's boyfriend felt like another business deal. Nothing more. We attended events together, smiled for cameras, held hands when necessary, and played our roles perfectly. At least I thought we did. Our first public appearance was at a charity dinner hosted by one of the Sterling family's foundations. Sophia stood beside me as photographers surrounded us. "Smile," she whispered. "I am smiling. You look terrified. I've never had 20 cameras pointed at me before." She quietly laughed. Then she slipped her hand into mine. The gesture looked natural. Too natural. "Relax," she whispered. "You're doing fine." I looked at our joined hands. "You're surprisingly good at this." "At pretending?" "Yes." Her smile disappeared for half a second. "I'm good at controlling my emotions." Before I could answer, another photographer called our names. Sophia immediately leaned closer to me. The cameras flashed. I smiled. She smiled. Everyone believed we were in love. When we returned to the car, she immediately released my hand. The warmth disappeared. "Good performance," she said. "You too." She looked out the window. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. But something strange began happening after that night. Sophia started remembering things about me that weren't written anywhere in our agreement. The next morning, she walked into the kitchen while I was making coffee. Black coffee. I looked at her. "Yes. No sugar." I frowned. "How do you know that?" She paused. "You told me once." "When?" She shrugged. "I don't remember." I smiled. "You definitely remember." She ignored me and picked up her phone. A few minutes later, breakfast arrived. I stared at the plate. "You ordered this?" "Yes." "You remembered I don't like mushrooms." I was ordering for myself. "And you don't like mushrooms either?" She froze. I changed my preference. I laughed. "Right." She gave me a warning look. "Don't make everything complicated." I didn't say anything. "You were thinking it." I grinned. Sophia rolled her eyes and walked away. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. She remembered my coffee, my food, my schedule, even my habits. And every time I noticed, she had an explanation. One afternoon, I returned from a long meeting. I dropped into the living room chair. Sophia looked up from her laptop. "You're exhausted." I blinked. "How did you know?" "You're rubbing your neck." I stopped. She looked at me. "What?" "Nothing." She went back to her laptop. I smiled. "You pay a lot of attention to me." "I don't." "You do." "I'm only following the agreement." I laughed. "Does the agreement require you to know how I take my coffee?" She stared at me. "No." "Then why do you—" She became quiet. For a moment, I thought she might answer honestly. Instead, she closed her laptop. "You talk too much." Then she walked away. I watched her disappear down the hallway. Something about her bothered me. Not in a bad way. In a confusing way. She said she didn't care. But her actions constantly told me something different. A few days later, I brought my coworker Emily to one of our business events. Emily was friendly, energetic, and always knew how to make me laugh when work became stressful. As we entered the ballroom, she nudged my shoulder. "Your fake girlfriend looks terrifying." I looked towards Sophia. She stood near her parents, surrounded by important guests. "She doesn't look terrifying." Emily laughed. "She is staring at us." I turned. Sophia was looking directly at Emily. The moment our eyes met, Sophia smiled. It was a beautiful smile. but somehow it didn't reach her eyes. Later, while we were speaking with several investors, Emily made a joke about one of my earlier business mistakes. I laughed. Sophia suddenly appeared beside me. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Perfect." Her voice was calm. Too calm. Emily smiled. "I'm just telling him about the presentation tomorrow." Sophia nodded. "Of course." Then she looked at me. "Can I speak with you?" "Sure." She led me toward a quiet corner. "What? Who is she?" I raised an eyebrow. "Emily?" "Yes. My coworker." "You seem close." I smiled. "Are you jealous?" Sophia's expression immediately hardened. "No. You asked about her. Because I need to know who you're spending time with." I laughed. "You remember our relationship is fake, right?" Her eyes changed. For a moment, she looked almost hurt. Then she looked away. I know. There was something strange about the way she said it. Not angry. Not cold. Disappointed. I stared at her. "Then why does it matter?" She didn't answer. Instead, she straightened her dress and looked toward the ballroom. "We should go back." "Sophia." She stopped. I waited. She finally turned toward me. "What? Are you sure you're okay?" She gave me a small smile. "I'm fine." Then she walked away. I stood there watching her. For the first time since we signed the agreement, I wondered whether Sophia Sterling was actually pretending. Maybe the fake relationship wasn't difficult for me because I didn't have feelings for her. Maybe it was difficult because I was beginning to suspect she had feelings she was desperately trying to hide. And if that was true, I had no idea what would happen when she finally stopped pretending. Sophia had promised me she would not interfere with my personal life. She had also promised that our relationship would remain nothing more than an arrangement. But lately, she was breaking both promises. It started when my company suddenly ran into serious financial trouble. One of our biggest clients canceled a contract without warning. Another delayed payment for almost 3 months. Within a week, my carefully planned budget collapsed. I sat in my office staring at the numbers on my screen. Daniel walked in carrying 2 coffees. "You look terrible." "I feel worse." He placed 1 coffee beside me. "How bad?" I turned the laptop toward him. "We have enough money to survive for maybe 6 weeks." Daniel's expression changed. "That bad?" "Maybe less." He pulled up a chair. "We can find investors. I've already contacted 12. And 12 rejections." Daniel sighed. I rubbed my face. "I built this company because I didn't want to depend on anyone." "You still don't. Then why does it feel like everything is falling apart?" Before Daniel could answer, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. "Hello. Mr. Carter?" "Yes. This is regarding your company's current financial situation." I sat straighter. "What about it?" "We represent a private investment group interested in providing immediate funding." I frowned. "How much?" The number they gave me nearly made me drop the phone. It was enough to save my company completely. "Why would you invest that much?" "We believe in your potential." "That doesn't answer my question." There was a brief silence. "Our client prefers to remain anonymous." "Who is your client?" "You'll receive the paperwork shortly." The call ended. I stared at the phone. Daniel looked at me. "What happened?" "Someone just offered to save us." He smiled. "That sounds good." "It sounds suspicious." 2 days later, Daniel found something. He walked into my office holding a folder. "I found the connection." "What connection?" "The investment group." He placed the folder on my desk. I opened it. My stomach tightened. The investment company was connected to the Sterling family. I immediately stood. "I'm going to talk to Sophia." Daniel grabbed his jacket. "I'll come with you." "No." "Why?" "Because this is between me and her." He looked concerned. "Be careful." I nodded. That evening, I found Sophia in the mansion's library. She was reading when I walked inside. "We need to talk." She looked up. "That sounds serious. Did you invest in my company?" Her expression barely changed. "No. Don't lie to me." She slowly closed her book. "I am not lying. Daniel traced the investment back to a company connected to your family. That doesn't mean I made the investment." "Then who did?" She stood. "You don't need to know everything I do." I stared at her. "That's exactly the problem." "What problem?" "I don't want your family controlling my future." Her expression softened. They aren't controlling your future. How do I know that? Because I wouldn't allow it. I laughed bitterly. That's supposed to make me feel better? Sophia stepped closer. I was trying to help. I didn't ask for help. I know. Then why did you do it? She looked away. Because you needed it. I shook my head. You can't keep solving my problems without telling me. I didn't think you would accept the money if you knew it came from me. You're right. Her eyes returned to mine. Then what would you have done? I would have found another way. And if there wasn't another way, I would have failed. Sophia stared at me. You'd rather lose everything than accept help? If accepting help means becoming dependent on your family, yes. She became quiet. I walked away. But the problem wasn't solved. Because deep down I knew why she had done it. She cared. And that frightened me more than the money. The next day, Alexander appeared at the Sterling offices. I wasn't there, but Sophia later told me what happened. He had confronted her about me. You're making a mistake, Alexander told her. Sophia looked at him calmly. About what? About him. She said nothing. Alexander continued. You're a Sterling. You can't seriously believe that man belongs beside you. Sophia's expression hardened. You don't need to decide who belongs beside me. Alexander stepped closer. I'm trying to protect you. I didn't ask you to. You're risking your family's reputation. Sophia looked directly into his eyes. I don't need you to decide who is right for me. Alexander apparently had no answer. For once, someone had stood against him without fear. When Sophia told me about it that evening, I couldn't help staring at her. You really said that? Yes. Why? Because it was true. I smiled slightly. You didn't have to defend me. I know. Then why did you? She looked at me. I don't like people judging you without knowing you. My heart skipped. I quickly looked away. Later that night, I found her standing alone on the balcony. The city lights reflected in her eyes. Are you okay? She asked. I laughed. You're asking me? Yes. You've been asking that a lot lately. She smiled faintly. I can stop. No. I leaned against the railing. You know, caring about me wasn't part of our agreement. She became silent. I looked at her. You keep helping me. You keep defending me. You keep asking about my life. I know. Why? Sophia looked toward the city. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she whispered, maybe I made the wrong agreement. I stared at her. What does that mean? She turned toward me. I don't know. But something in her eyes told me she did. And for the first time, I wondered whether our fake relationship had already become real to one of us. Maybe to both of us. Neither of us was ready to say it. Yet, I had seen Sophia angry before. I had seen her frustrated. I had even seen her scared. But I had never seen her jealous. That changed during a business dinner. The dinner was supposed to be simple. A few investors, some executives, and members of my team were gathered at a private restaurant to discuss our company's next project. Emily sat beside me because she was helping prepare the presentation. She leaned closer to my laptop. Your numbers on the third slide are wrong. I frowned. They are? Yes. Look here. She pointed toward the screen. I checked the figures and laughed. You're right. I usually am. Don't get too confident. Emily smiled. Across the table, Sophia said nothing. I noticed her looking at us. Her face was perfectly calm, but her eyes were cold. I ignored it. Emily continued helping me. You should change this section too. Why? Because investors don't care about technical details. They care about results. I nodded. That actually makes sense. See? I'm useful. You're finally earning your salary. She laughed. I laughed with her. Then Sophia suddenly spoke. He doesn't need your approval. The entire table became quiet. I looked at her. Emily blinked. I wasn't giving him approval. You were complimenting him. I was. Sophia took a sip of water. He knows his work is good. I stared at her. Sophia. She looked at me. What? Are you okay? Of course. Her voice was completely calm. That somehow made it worse. Emily smiled awkwardly. I'll let you two discuss the presentation. She moved her chair slightly away. I leaned toward Sophia. What was that? What? You interrupted her. I was making a point. What point? That you're capable of doing your own work. I stared at her. Emily was helping me. I know. Then why did you react like that? She looked away. I didn't react. You absolutely did. She sighed. Can we discuss this later? I nodded. Fine. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. After dinner, we returned to the mansion. Sophia immediately disappeared upstairs. I followed her. Sophia. She stopped. What? Why were you jealous? Her eyes widened. I wasn't jealous. You were. I was protecting our relationship contract. I laughed. The contract doesn't say anything about jealousy. She crossed her arms. It says we have to make the relationship look convincing. So I can't allow people to misunderstand our relationship. I smiled. Emily wasn't misunderstanding anything. Sophia said nothing. She knows we're fake. I know. Then what exactly were you protecting? She looked frustrated. You ask too many questions, and you avoid too many answers. She turned away. Good night, Sophia. She kept walking. I followed her with my eyes until she disappeared. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the dinner. The way she looked at Emily. The way her voice changed. The way she suddenly needed to remind everyone that I was part of her relationship. It didn't make sense. Our relationship was fake. She had been the one to establish that rule. So why did it bother her when another woman sat beside me? The next morning, I found her in the kitchen. She was drinking coffee. I sat across from her. Are you still angry? No. Good. Silence. Then I asked, were you really jealous last night? Sophia nearly dropped her cup. I told you I wasn't. You did. And I don't believe you. She stared at me. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she sighed. I just didn't like seeing her so close to you. My heart skipped. Why? I don't know. You don't know? She shook her head. No. I leaned forward. Does it bother you when other women talk to me? She looked away. Sometimes. Why? I said I don't know. Her voice became quieter. I smiled. You're jealous. She immediately looked at me. I'm not. You just admitted it. I said I was uncomfortable. That's jealousy. She frowned. You're enjoying this. A little. Don't. I laughed. She tried to hide a smile. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then she became serious again. It's just strange. What is? Seeing someone else close to you. I didn't know what to say. Sophia looked down at her coffee. I know this relationship isn't real. Her voice sounded different now. I know. But sometimes. She stopped. Sometimes what? She looked at me. For a moment, I thought she would finally tell me the truth. Instead, she shook her head. Forget I said anything. Sophia. Please. She stood and walked away. I stayed there, watching her leave. Something inside me had changed. Until that moment, I had thought of our relationship as a contract. A strange business arrangement. Nothing more. But now I couldn't stop asking myself a question. What if Sophia was beginning to lose the battle she had started the day she warned me not to fall in love with her? And worse, what if I was losing the same battle? I had spent weeks telling myself that her strange behavior meant nothing. Her concern meant nothing. Her protection meant nothing. Her jealousy meant nothing. But now I wasn't so sure. Because when Sophia admitted that seeing another woman beside me made her uncomfortable, I felt something I hadn't expected. I was happy. And that realization scared me. I looked toward the hallway where she had disappeared. Maybe this fake relationship wasn't as fake as we had promised. Maybe the contract had already become irrelevant. And maybe the first person to break the rules wasn't Sophia. Maybe it was me. I found Sophia standing alone in the garden that evening. She was sitting beneath the old oak tree, staring at the lights surrounding the mansion. I almost walked away, but something told me she wanted someone to ask what was wrong. Sophia. She looked over her shoulder. You're still awake? Couldn't sleep. Me neither. I sat beside her. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the question that had been bothering me for weeks. Why did you create all those rules? Sophia's expression changed. What rules? No love. No attachment. No questions about your past. No expectations. She looked down. They were necessary. For what? To protect myself. I waited. She took a slow breath. My parents. I frowned. What about them? My mother loved my father. Her voice became quieter. She loved him more than anything, but my father never treated their marriage like a marriage. How? Like a business agreement. I stayed silent. Sophia continued. My father cared about reputation, contracts, alliances, and money. My mother wanted something simple. She wanted to be loved. What happened? She stayed. Sophia smiled sadly. She stayed even when he stopped treating her like a wife. I didn't interrupt. She spent years pretending everything was fine because she believed protecting our family mattered more than her own happiness. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her sleeve. When I was young, I watched her become smaller and smaller. I felt something tighten inside my chest. And that changed you? Yes. She looked at me. I decided love was dangerous. Because of your father? Because of what love did to my mother. She looked toward the mansion. I watched someone I loved become powerless because she cared too much. Her eyes returned to mine. I promised myself I would never become like her. I understood then. Her coldness wasn't arrogance. It was armor. You thought emotions made people weak. They do. I shook my head. Not always. She smiled faintly. You're saying that because you're emotional. Maybe. She laughed softly. It was the first time I had heard her laugh without pretending. Then she became serious again. That was why I created the rules. You thought rules could stop you from getting hurt. Yes. And did they? She looked at me. No. The answer came immediately. My heart skipped. Why? She hesitated. Because of you. I stared at her. She looked away. When we started this, I thought you would be easy to keep at a distance. That's insulting. She smiled. You know what I mean? Maybe. You weren't impressed by my money. No. You didn't care about my family name. Not really. You argued with me. Frequently. She laughed again. And you treated me like a normal person. I smiled. You're a normal person. She shook her head. Most people don't see me that way. I knew what she meant. People saw Sophia Sterling, the billionaire heiress, the daughter of Richard Sterling, the woman who could walk into a room and change someone's life with a signature. But I had never thought about her that way. To me, she was simply Sophia, the woman who drank coffee without sugar, the woman who hated mushrooms, the woman who pretended not to care, the woman who became jealous whenever Emily came near me. You were the only person, she whispered, who never treated me like a billionaire heiress. Her words hit me harder than I expected. I looked at her. I didn't know you wanted that. I didn't know either. She looked down. I thought I wanted someone who would never get close enough to hurt me. And now? She was silent. Now I'm not sure. I smiled gently. You don't have to be sure. She looked at me. What? You don't have to decide anything tonight. She watched me carefully. I won't pressure you. Why? Because I know you're afraid. Her eyes softened. I don't want to be another person who tells you how you're supposed to feel. For several seconds, she simply stared at me. Then she whispered, You're different. That's what everyone says. I mean it. I smiled. Then maybe the agreement isn't completely terrible. She laughed quietly. It's terrible. Fair enough. We sat beneath the tree in silence. But the silence no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt peaceful. After a while, Sophia spoke again. I don't want you to promise me forever. I won't. I don't want you to tell me you'll never hurt me. I can't promise that. She looked surprised. Why not? Because I'm human. She smiled. That may be the most honest answer you've ever given me. I can promise something else. What? I'll never intentionally use your feelings against you. Her expression softened. Thank you. I looked at her. There's something you should know too. What? My feelings are changing. She froze. I continued before she could respond. I don't know exactly what they are yet, but I know this isn't just business to me anymore. She looked frightened. I quickly added, You don't have to answer. She stared at the ground. I'm scared. I know. I don't want to lose myself. You won't. How can you know? Because I won't ask you to become someone else. She slowly looked at me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she smiled. Not the polished smile she used for cameras. Not the careful smile she used around her family. A real one. Maybe, she whispered. I chose the wrong rules. I laughed softly. Maybe. She stood. Good night. Good night. She walked toward the mansion. Then she stopped and turned around. I still don't want you falling in love with me. I smiled. Too late. Her eyes widened. I laughed. I'm joking. But when she walked away, neither of us believed me, because the truth was becoming impossible to hide. Sophia had built rules to protect herself from love, and I had agreed to those rules because I thought I had nothing to lose. Now I was beginning to realize I had everything to lose. Her. I knew something was wrong the moment Daniel walked into my office without knocking. His face was pale. What happened? I asked. He placed his phone on my desk. Look. I picked it up. My stomach dropped. A financial report about my company was spreading across every major business network. It claimed we had hidden debts, manipulated investor records, and secretly moved company money into private accounts. None of it was true. Who published this? I asked. We're still investigating. How many investors have seen it? Almost all of them. My phone started ringing. Then another notification appeared. One of our biggest investors had suspended funding. A second investor demanded an emergency meeting. Then 3 employees submitted resignation notices. I stood there, staring at the screen. This can't be happening. Daniel shook his head. Someone planned this carefully. I already had a name in my mind. Victor Hayes. He had been watching my company for months, and now he had finally made his move. I spent the next several hours fighting fires. Lawyers called. Investors demanded explanations. Employees asked whether their salaries were safe. I gave everyone the same answer. We'll fix this. But privately, I wasn't sure. By evening, the damage was enormous. Daniel entered my office again. We found something. What? The false reports were distributed through several financial firms. He placed a folder on my desk. One of them is connected to Victor. I clenched my fists. So, he wants to destroy me. It looks that way. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Sophia. I answered. Hello. Are you okay? Her voice immediately told me she already knew. I'll handle it. You don't have to do this alone. I said I'll handle it. I can help. No. There was silence. What do you mean, no? I don't want your family's connections involved. Sophia Sterling's connections aren't the problem. They are to me. She sighed. You're being stubborn. And you're trying to solve my problems with money. I'm trying to protect you. Her voice suddenly cracked. I froze. Why? I asked. Because. She stopped. I could hear her breathing. Because what? Because I don't want you to lose everything. I've survived worse. You don't understand. Then explain it. I can't. I stood up. Why are you doing this? Because I care about you. That's not enough. Her eyes suddenly filled with tears. Why isn't it enough? Because I don't want to owe your family anything. You wouldn't owe me anything. Yes, I would. No. She stepped closer. Why can't you just let me help you? Because I don't want to become another project you secretly protect. Her expression changed. What? You've been doing this for months? I don't know what you're talking about. The investor. The lawyer. The opportunities. She went completely silent. I know it was you. Her eyes dropped. I shook my head. I appreciate what you did, Sophia, but I need to stand on my own. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Why do you keep pushing me away? Because I don't know what you want from me. I don't want anything. Then why are you fighting so hard? Because I love you. The words exploded through the room. Silence followed. Sophia froze. Her hand slowly rose to her mouth. Her eyes widened as if she couldn't believe what she had just said. I couldn't move. Neither could she. Then she whispered, I wasn't supposed to say that. I took one slow step toward her. Sophia. She looked away. Forget it. I can't. Please. You said you love me. Her tears began falling. I didn't mean to. Did you mean it? She closed her eyes. Yes. My heart began pounding. How long? She shook her head. I don't know. You must know. I've been fighting it for months. She wiped her tears. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that I was only protecting you because of the agreement, that I was only jealous because we were pretending to be together. She laughed bitterly. But none of that was true. I stepped closer. What was true? She looked directly into my eyes. I fell in love with you. I stopped breathing for a moment. Sophia continued. I fell in love when you stayed beside me when I was sick. I fell in love when you defended me without asking what you would get in return. I fell in love when you treated me like Sophia instead of an heiress. Her voice trembled, and every time I tried to create distance, I only wanted you closer. I swallowed hard. You could have told me. I was terrified. Of me. Of losing you. I frowned. How could telling me make you lose me? Because once I admitted it, everything became real. She looked down. I built my entire life around not needing anyone. I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. But then you happened. I smiled sadly. That sounds like a complaint. She laughed through her tears. Maybe it is. I gently held her hand. She stared at our fingers. I promised myself I would never fall in love with you. And she looked at me. But I failed. For the first time since I had met her, Sophia wasn't hiding behind wealth, rules, pride, or fear. She was simply standing in front of me as a woman who had finally admitted what her heart had been screaming for months. I squeezed her hand. You didn't fail. She looked at me. You finally told the truth. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. Does this change everything? I looked at her. Yes. She swallowed. Is that bad? I smiled. No. I stepped closer. It might be the first honest thing we've ever done. Sophia smiled through her tears. And for the first time, neither of us pretended that our relationship was fake. I knew our confession had changed everything, but I didn't realize how quickly the rest of the world would change with it. The next morning, Sophia's father found out. Richard Sterling called her into his private office. I wasn't there, but Sophia later told me exactly what happened. Her father stood behind his desk with his arms crossed. You're ending this relationship. Sophia stared at him. No. Richard's expression hardened. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. You're risking your position in Sterling Holdings. I know. You're risking your inheritance. I know. And for what? Sophia looked directly at him. For the man I love. Richard slammed his hand against the desk. This isn't love. It's rebellion. No, Dad. For once, it's my choice. He stared at her in disbelief. Then he gave her an ultimatum. If you refuse to end this relationship, I will remove you from Sterling Holdings. Sophia's face remained calm. Then do it. Richard's eyes narrowed. You'd throw away everything for him? Sophia shook her head. No, I'd rather lose everything than lose myself again. When she told me about the conversation, I felt a heavy weight settle in my chest. You shouldn't have done that, I said. She looked at me. Why? Because of me. No. You could lose your company, your inheritance, everything your family built. Sophia stepped closer. I already told you. I choose you. I shook my head. And I choose you too. That's exactly why I won't let you destroy your life for me. She stared at me. So, what do you want? I want to fight this myself. You can't fight my father and Victor alone. I don't need your family's money. Sophia smiled softly. I know. That answer surprised me. You're not going to stop me? No. Why? Because you don't want me to rescue you. She reached for my hand. You want to prove you can stand beside me. I nodded. She squeezed my fingers. Then I'll stand beside you. Not in front of you. Those words stayed with me. For the first time, Sophia wasn't trying to protect me by controlling everything. She was trusting me. The next morning, Daniel arrived at my office with 3 folders. We have a problem. I already know. No, you don't. He dropped the folders on my desk. These are Victor's financial transactions. I opened the first one. Hidden transfers. Shell companies. Suspicious payments. My eyes widened. How did you get this? Emily. I looked toward the doorway. Emily walked in carrying another stack of documents. I found inconsistencies in the reports Victor submitted. She placed them beside Daniel's folders. He moved money through several companies before it disappeared. I looked at both of them. You're telling me Victor isn't just spreading false reports. Daniel nodded. He's trying to make your company look unstable while hiding his own crimes. I leaned back. That could destroy him. Exactly. For the next several days, we worked without stopping. Daniel tracked financial transfers. Emily organized records and compared years of reports. I contacted lawyers and independent auditors, and Sophia stayed beside me. But she never interfered. Whenever I became frustrated, she brought coffee. Whenever I doubted myself, she reminded me why I started. One evening, she entered my office and found me staring at a mountain of paperwork. "You haven't eaten. I'm busy." She placed a sandwich beside me. "You're impossible. I learned from you." She laughed. Then her expression became serious. "Are you scared?" I looked at her. "Yes." She seemed surprised. I continued. "I'm scared of failing. I'm scared of losing my company. And I'm scared that you'll lose everything because of me." Sophia sat beside me. "You're not responsible for my father's choices, but I don't want you to regret choosing me." She took my hand. "I already regret one thing." "What?" "Waiting so long to choose myself." I stared at her. She smiled. "I won't make that mistake again." The next day, Alexander came to see Sophia. I wasn't present, but she told me about their conversation later. He tried to convince her that I would eventually leave. "He doesn't belong in your world," Alexander told her. Sophia simply replied, "He never asked for my family's money." Alexander laughed. "That's what makes you trust him?" "Yes. He's still using your influence." "No." Sophia's voice remained calm. "He refuses to use it." Alexander had no answer. Then she added, "You don't understand the difference between loving someone and needing what they have." Alexander left furious. When Sophia returned to my office, she looked different, stronger. I could see it immediately. "What happened?" I asked. Alexander came to see me, and I told him the truth. "What truth?" "That I trust you because you've never asked me for anything." I smiled. "That sounds dangerous." She laughed. "It probably is." I stood and walked toward her. "You know, when we started this, you created rules because you were afraid of losing control." She looked at me. "And now? Now you're risking everything." She nodded. "Because I finally understand something." "What?" "Love isn't losing control." She stepped closer. "It's choosing who you trust with your heart." I didn't know what to say, so I simply held her. For once, Sophia didn't need me to save her, and I didn't need her family's wealth to prove that I deserved her. We were finally becoming equals. Not billionaire and ordinary man. Not heiress and struggling businessman. Just Sophia and me. Two people choosing each other despite everything standing between us. The truth about Victor finally came out on a Monday morning. I was sitting in my office with Daniel when he placed his phone on my desk. It happened. I looked at the screen. Every major business network was reporting the same story. Victor Hayes had been exposed. His hidden accounts, false financial reports, and illegal transfers had finally been uncovered. For several seconds, I simply stared at the headlines. Then Daniel smiled. "He's finished." I leaned back. After everything Victor had done, I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I felt relieved. I had spent weeks fighting to prove that my company wasn't built on fraud. Now the truth was finally speaking for itself. But there was more. Daniel opened another report. "There's something else." "What?" "Alexander." My expression changed. "What does he have to do with this?" Daniel turned the laptop toward me. Financial records showed several payments between companies connected to Alexander and accounts controlled by Victor. I stared at the documents. So Alexander funded him? Not directly. Daniel pointed to several transactions. He used intermediaries. I clenched my jaw. What was he trying to accomplish? Daniel answered quietly. He wanted Victor to create enough chaos around Sophia's family that Richard would have no choice but to accept Alexander as her husband. Everything suddenly made sense. Alexander hadn't simply wanted Sophia. He wanted Sterling Holdings, and he had been willing to destroy anyone standing between him and control of the company, including me, including Sophia. I called her immediately. "Sophia, you need to see this." "I already know." "You do." "Dad found out this morning." And he confronted Alexander. I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "What happened?" He finally admitted enough that Dad couldn't ignore it. I paused. "What is Richard going to do?" "I don't know." She sounded nervous. That surprised me. "Sophia?" "I'm scared." "Of Alexander?" "No." She took a breath. Of my father. I understood. Victor had been exposed. Alexander's plan had collapsed. But Richard was still Richard. The man who had spent years controlling his daughter's future. The man who believed wealth could solve every problem. The man who had once told Sophia that loving me would destroy her life. "I'll come to you," I said. "No. Sophia. Give me a little time." I respected her decision. A few hours later, she called again. "Can you come to the mansion?" I drove there immediately. When I entered the living room, Sophia was standing beside the window. Richard sat across the room. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Richard stood. "I owe you both an apology." Sophia looked stunned. I remained silent. Richard looked at me. "I judged you because you didn't have what I thought my daughter needed." I said nothing. I believed money could protect Sophia. His voice became quieter. I believed the right marriage could protect her from pain. Sophia looked down. Richard continued. "I was wrong." The room felt strangely quiet. I spent years controlling her future because I was afraid she would suffer. Sophia finally spoke. "You can't protect me from every heartbreak." Richard nodded. She stepped toward him. "You can only let me choose who I love." Richard's eyes became wet. "I know." Sophia stared at him. "Do you really?" "Yes." He looked at her for a long moment. "You're my daughter. I should have trusted you to know your own heart." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "Dad." Richard walked toward her. "I was so focused on protecting this family that I forgot you were part of it." Sophia hugged him. For the first time, I saw Richard Sterling without his usual arrogance. He wasn't a billionaire businessman. He was simply a father who had finally realized how badly he had misunderstood his daughter. When they separated, Richard looked at me. "I can't undo what I did." "No," I replied. "I know." He nodded. "But I can choose what I do from now on." I respected that answer. Not because it erased the past. It didn't. But because it showed that he finally understood. Richard looked towards Sophia. "She chose you." Sophia smiled. "Yes." He smiled faintly. "Then I hope you're worthy of that choice." I looked at Sophia. "I'll spend my life trying to be." Richard nodded. "That is all I can ask." After he left the room, Sophia turned toward me. For a moment, she simply stared. Then she smiled. "What? You're still here. Where else would I be?" She laughed softly. "I don't know." I stepped closer. "You used to think I would leave." "I did." "And now?" She shook her head. "Now I'm not afraid." I reached for her hand. She held mine tightly. "I spent so long creating rules," she whispered. "I remember. No touching. Definitely remember. No falling in love. That one didn't work very well." She laughed through her tears. "No expectations." I smiled. "And now?" She looked directly into my eyes. "Now I don't need rules." "Why?" "Because I finally understand that loving someone isn't weakness." She squeezed my hand. "It's courage." I pulled her closer. For the first time, Sophia didn't look like a billionaire heiress trying to protect herself from the world. She looked free. And I realized something. Victor had lost everything because he believed power meant controlling other people. Alexander had lost everything because he believed wealth could buy love. Richard had nearly lost his daughter because he believed protection meant making every decision for her. But Sophia had learned the truth. Love wasn't control. Love wasn't money. Love wasn't fear. It was choice. And standing beside me that evening, she finally made hers without hesitation. She chose me, not because I needed her wealth, not because her family approved, not because she was afraid of being alone. She chose me because she wanted to, and for the first time, neither of us needed anything else. For the first time since Sophia and I began our strange arrangement, there were no cameras waiting outside the door, no reporters, no family members, no business partners, no expectations, just Sophia and me. She sat across from me at the small table in my apartment, holding the original agreement between her fingers. The same agreement that had started everything. I looked at it and smiled. "I can't believe we actually signed this." Sophia laughed softly. "I can't believe you agreed to it. You offered enough money to save my company. That was a good reason. It was a terrible reason." She raised an eyebrow. "You took the money?" I know. And you signed every page. I was desperate. She smiled. So was I. I looked at her. That answer made me quiet. Sophia slowly opened the contract. The pages were old now. The ink had faded slightly around the edges. She began reading the rules. Rule 1. She cleared her throat dramatically. Public affection when necessary. I laughed. You were very serious about that one. I wanted everything to look convincing. You were terrifying. I still am. I smiled. Sometimes. She continued. Rule 2. No unnecessary questions about personal matters. That one lasted about 3 days. Maybe 4. 2. She laughed. Then she reached the final page. Her expression changed. She stared at the sentence for several seconds. What? She turned the page toward me. There it was. The rule that had once seemed so important. Never fall in love with your fake partner. Sophia covered her mouth and laughed. I really thought I could control everything. I looked at her. You did. For a while. Not for long. She shook her head. I thought if I created enough rules, I could keep my heart safe. You tried. I failed. She looked at me. I failed completely. I reached for the contract. Sophia released it. I folded the pages once, then again, and tore them in half. Sophia stared at me. What are you doing? I tore them again. We don't need this anymore. She looked at the pieces scattered across the table. Her eyes slowly filled with tears. You're sure? I nodded. You don't need rules anymore. She looked down. That scares me. Why? Because this is real now. I moved closer. I know. With the contract, I always had an excuse. For what? For being afraid. She took a shaky breath. If something went wrong, I could tell myself it was only an arrangement. I listened quietly. But now there is no agreement. No. No deadline. No. No reason to pretend. None. She looked into my eyes. That means if you leave, it will actually hurt. My chest tightened. If I leave, she nodded. That's what I'm afraid of. I reached across the table and took her hand. I can't promise we'll never hurt each other. She looked at me. I wish you could. So do I. I squeezed her fingers, but I can promise that I'll be honest with you. She smiled faintly. And I can promise I'll try to trust you. That's enough. She looked down at our hands. I've never been this afraid. Neither have I. She looked surprised. You. Of course. Why? Because I love you. Her eyes widened. I had said it before, but this time felt different. There was no contract behind the words. No performance. No cameras. No family pressure. Just the truth. I love you too, she whispered. I smiled. I know. She laughed through her tears. You're impossible. You married me. Technically, I hired you. I laughed. That sounds romantic. It wasn't. Then we should fix that. She looked at me. How? I stood and walked around the table. I stopped in front of her. By starting over. She slowly stood. How? No contracts. I held up one finger. No rules. Another finger. No pretending. Another. No family deciding what we should feel. Her eyes softened. And what do we have? I gently touched her hand. Just us. Sophia looked at me for a long moment. Then she stepped closer. I like that. So do I. She rested her forehead against mine. For several seconds, neither of us moved. I could hear her breathing. I could feel her hand trembling slightly in mine. I'm still scared, she whispered. Me too. Don't let go. I won't. She closed her eyes. Then she kissed me. There was no audience. No cameras. No agreement. No billionaire family watching. It wasn't part of a performance. It wasn't something we had to do to convince anyone. It was simply Sophia choosing me. And me choosing her. When we finally pulled apart, she smiled. So this is what real love feels like. I smiled back. I think so. It's terrifying. Very. She laughed. But I like it. I held her closer. So do I. She looked at the torn contract lying on the table. I spent so much time trying to control how this would end. And now. She looked at me. Now I don't care how it ends. Why? Because I want to live it. Her words stayed with me. For months, we had been pretending to be something we were slowly becoming. A couple. Partners. Lovers. But that night, everything changed. There was no fake relationship anymore. There was only ours. And for the first time, Sophia wasn't afraid of what love might cost her. She was simply grateful that she had finally found the courage to choose it. I pulled her closer. She smiled against my shoulder. No more rules. I kissed her forehead. Never again. Months later, I stood at the end of a small garden aisle, waiting for the woman who had once told me never to fall in love with her. The afternoon sunlight passed gently through the trees, filling the garden with a warm, golden glow. There were no massive screens, no reporters, and no crowd of strangers. Only the people who truly mattered. Daniel stood near me, smiling like he had been waiting years to make fun of me. "You look nervous," he whispered. "I am. You're the man who once signed a fake relationship contract with a billionaire heiress." "I know. And now you're nervous about marrying her?" I looked toward the entrance. "Yes." Daniel laughed. "This is definitely worse." I smiled, but my heart was beating faster with every second. Then the music began. Everyone turned toward the garden entrance. And I saw her, Sophia. She walked slowly toward me in a beautiful white wedding dress. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She wasn't wearing the expression of the powerful heiress I had first met. She wasn't the cold businesswoman who had handed me a contract and warned me about rules. She wasn't the woman who believed love was dangerous. She was simply Sophia, the woman I loved. Our eyes met. She smiled through tears. I smiled back. As she reached me, she whispered, "You look nervous." I laughed softly. "I am." "Good. Why?" "Because I'm terrified too." I took her hand. "Then we're both doing this, right?" She squeezed my fingers. The ceremony began, but I barely heard the first few words. My mind had already traveled back to the night everything started. I remembered sitting across from Sophia in my small office. She had placed that relationship contract in front of me. She had explained every rule with absolute confidence. No unnecessary questions. No emotional attachment. No expectations. And most importantly, never fall in love with me. Back then, I had laughed. I thought she was being overly cautious. I never imagined those words would become the beginning of the greatest love story of my life. The officiant turned towards Sophia. "Your vows." Sophia took a slow breath. She looked at me. "When I first met you, I was afraid of love." Her voice trembled slightly. "I believed love made people weak. I believed caring about someone gave them the power to hurt you." She paused. "I created rules because I thought rules could protect my heart." A few people smiled softly. Sophia continued, "I thought if I controlled every part of our relationship, I could control what I felt." She laughed quietly through her tears. "I was completely wrong." I smiled. She reached for my hands. "You broke every rule I created." I whispered, "I'm sorry." She laughed. "But somehow, you never broke the one rule that mattered." I looked at her. "You were always honest with me." Her eyes became brighter with tears. "You never pretended to love me for my money. You never asked for my family's approval. You never tried to control me." She took a breath. "You simply gave me the freedom to choose." I felt my throat tighten. Sophia smiled. "And you made me realize something." She looked directly into my eyes. "Love isn't weakness." Her voice became stronger. "Love is choosing someone even when you're afraid." I squeezed her hands. She continued, "I choose you." The words were simple, but they meant everything. The woman who had once been terrified of losing control was standing in front of everyone and freely giving me her heart. No contract, no deadline, no conditions, just a choice. Then it was my turn. I looked at Sophia and smiled. "When I first met you, I thought I was entering a business arrangement." She laughed. "You were." Unfortunately, everyone laughed. I continued. "But somewhere between our arguments, our impossible rules, and all the moments when you pretended not to care, I fell in love with you." Sophia wiped away a tear. "You told me never to fall in love with you." "I remember. And I broke that rule." "You broke all of them." She smiled. "Almost." I shook my head. No. You kept the most important one. She looked at me. Which one? Being honest with me. Her eyes softened. You taught me that love isn't about controlling the future. I took her hand. It's about trusting someone enough to face it together. The officiant smiled. Do you have the rings? Daniel stepped forward and handed them to us. I almost laughed when I saw him try not to cry. Don't, I whispered. He grinned. I'm emotional. You're terrible at hiding it. Sophia laughed. We exchanged rings. As I slipped the ring onto her finger, I thought about how different this moment was from the beginning. The first time she had given me something to wear around her finger, it had been part of a contract. This time, there were no conditions. No payment. No family demands. No performance. Only love. When Sophia placed my ring on my finger, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. I choose you, she whispered. I choose you too. The officiant pronounced us married. Everyone applauded. Daniel cheered louder than anyone. Sophia laughed as she leaned closer to me. Then we kissed. It wasn't for cameras. It wasn't for her family's reputation. It wasn't because a contract demanded it. It was because we wanted to. Later, as we walked away from the ceremony together, Sophia held my arm tightly. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she leaned closer. I broke my own rule. I smiled. And I'm glad you did. She looked at me. Me too. I glanced at the ring on her finger. Do you regret it? Not even for a second. I held her hand. Years ago, Sophia had believed love was something dangerous. She had built walls around her heart and rules around our relationship. But love had never asked her to become weak. It had simply asked her to be brave. And as we walked into our future together, I realized something. The best thing that ever happened to me wasn't becoming successful. It wasn't earning money. It wasn't proving myself to her family. It was meeting the woman who taught me that sometimes the most beautiful thing in life is watching someone break the rules they created to protect themselves. Sophia once told me never to fall in love with her. I was glad she failed.